Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Rob Baer. Joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Yo, what's up?
So I couldn't think of any other spot to put this in, so I figured we might as well just talk about it. We may be in the near future, but not next week, starting a bit early, or at least trying to truncate the pre-show if you're a Patreon supporter to about 30 minutes, because I have a candy ass.
Rob is you've never withheld anything. Like, people know you've like had recent issues with your back. Now
my milk allergy has come to the fore.
Yeah,
it's rough.
Just stop drinking milk.
I can't stop drinking. No, I'm just kidding. I don't actually have a milk allergy. It's superstition.
But yeah, so we're going to experiment with some things. That's only really going to affect our live audience and our patrons. And we hope that there are not too many inconveniences. And we hope you can bear with it while we try to figure this out. Show's not like going anywhere or anything like that. We're not even talking like that. Just
gotta
shout out to Rob, and we're going to try to support Rob as he tries to get this shit in order. Because he did go to the chiropractor recently. And the chiropractor did discover, as Wyatt mentioned, that he has 472 ribs.
The story gets even more wilder every time you say it.
So it turns out people are onto him. So he may have to lay low for a couple weeks.
Yeah. I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
But in the spirit of accelerating this program, we did have an exciting after hours. So if you're a patron supporter,
I think so.
Take a look at it. I think it was a really good one. We had a lot of people in there talking and sharing their stories. And we're going to do a condensed professional version of that here for our meat and potatoes. But first...
I'm here for it.
Oh. Rob hears the word meat and he's in. Rob, are you ready for this joke? Wyatt, can you please roll us out to the Cave of Wonders and get us another Peabody?
I can. Would you rather fight one dragon-sized chicken or 10 chicken-sized dragons?
Oh, that'd be adorable. Can they wait? Chickens can't technically fly, so
they 100% can fly, dude. They're birds.
Nah, that's not real.
Okay.
I've never seen a chicken fly. It doesn't exist.
They can they can't fly like a...
They don't like migrate or anything, but they absolutely
they can definitely flap them wings and get up in the air.
Yeah.
They better not be blasting me with some dragon fire.
Look, chickens are the most vicious animal I have ever interacted with in my life. I'm not fucking around with a dragon chicken, dude. Get out of here.
It's just a chicken that's the size of a dragon.
Yeah.
Could you imagine frying those delicious drumsticks?
Okay, you remember that one time we were like, would you rather have a cat or a tiger-sized cat or a cat-sized tiger or whatever? Or it's like, dog, if your house cat right now was the size of a tiger, you're dead. Like, how many, you know what I'm saying? Like, chickens, my parents had chickens. They're vicious. Vicious. The chicken would walk right up to me and start trying to eat my shoe. Like, I watched this chicken, my dad's digging a hole, and this chicken just like comes over and investigates, and he just like starts pulling snakes out of the dirt and just beating them to shit and swallowing them all. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, they used to have a wolf spider like epidemic in their backyard. There's no more wolf spiders. Haven't seen them for 2 years. They're gone. Extinct. Like,
due to the chickens.
Yeah. I will fight 100% 10 chicken-sized dragons.
I mean, those would be adorable, first of all. Who doesn't want a chicken-sized dragon? Little flappy wings.
I don't know, dragons are...
I mean, you got to fight them, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, but you could legit have a shield and a sword and fight that dragon. Not like the big dragon. Like, how does that even work? It doesn't work. It's mind-boggling. I don't know.
Look, I'll take my chance. I'll get fire breath on me, whatever, man. Little streams of fire. I'm gonna go after those little dragons. I probably won't live, but I feel like I have a chance.
More of a chance than getting sat on by dragon-sized chicken.
Bro, I've watched a chicken literally just grab a field mouse and just start beating it to shit against a rock and just like no hesitation, straight murder. Like cats don't even go near him, dude. Fucking, I don't think you understand what you're in for. You realize you have to fight it, right? that's what it was.
No, that's bad. That's a bad idea.
You have to.
Do I get like a freaking like elephant gun?
Yeah, what do we get to use? What are our weapons? Fisticuffs?
You can take any weapon, or you can take any item from your garage that is not a projectile weapon.
What if we don't have a garage?
Dad's garage.
What?
Like from your dad's garage, then.
Tractor.
It can't be a vehicle.
I mean,
What?
I don't see a tractor helping him against a dragon-sized chicken.
It's got to be like you gotta hold it in your hand. It's you. You can't have a tractor.
Something I can hold in my hand that is in my garage right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I got some things I could pick from.
Can make it happen, probably.
Kind of just thinking like trash can lid.
Yeah, that's your shield.
Yep. Because
And like tennis racket.
Because if I can rush down some of these small dragons, not get my face melted off.
What if you had 2 trash can lids? You could just be like,
I don't have 2 trash cans. I only have 1.
those are rookie numbers.
It's a good one, Wyatt.
It was.
It's a good one. I'm gonna definitely take some video footage of these chickens doing murder, backyard Florida murder for you, so you can understand what I'm talking about, Rob.
Should I have made it a callback where it's like the dragon-sized chicken is the rooster?
Is the rooster that I fought for like my whole life until I died finally?
Yeah, he's back.
What about the chimpanzee? Was he riding the chicken
Sure, why not?
with the pea jar in his hand?
It's like that. It's like that giant chicken from the Animaniacs keeps constantly just coming back.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't thought of
disguises.
Animaniacs in a long time.
They brought him back recently. I don't know if they're still around, though. Guess I didn't watch them.
What a wacky show. Okay, well, let's do the
I got a
news now.
wacky show for you.
Yeah.
And a cat, apparently. Oh, she's back. Oh, boy.
Rob, a
we go.
professional as always.
Yo,
there she is.
somebody wanted to see the cat, so there she is. She doesn't like to be picked up.
I mean, for a cat that says she doesn't like to be picked up, she's certainly just letting me
No,
pick
she'll
her
freak
up.
out. And yep, we're freaking out. And we're going down. Cat has become...
Do you not trim their nails?
Oh, yeah, they do it at the place like twice a year. Why?
So with like my cats, I use my little hobby clippers to just like a couple of millimeters of the sharp ends off, so that way they don't follow me.
I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to.
You gotta do it when they're like young, so they get used to it.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're past that. We're past that now. Well, we got a lot. I feel like there's a lot to talk about as far as news goes. So there was the big thing that I think is definitely worth a trend, an indicator, so to speak, is the newest list for top non-collectible miniature lines. Basically, anything that's a miniature game or line of miniatures that you can buy at a store. ICV2, they're like kind of like a retailer friendly, tied in with Gamma sort of website that puts out a lot of great articles about just stuff in the industry and things and comic book stores. And it's really nice to read if you ever get a chance. But they put out they pull stores twice a year about like what's hot, what's selling, what the big titles are, games and stuff. So obviously rank number 1, still Warhammer 40K, but 2 and 3, previously were basically WizKids D&D miniatures in Age of Sigmar. 4 was Marvel Crisis Protocol, and 5 was Star Wars Legion. And then this year, 40K is still at the top. D&D, Nozar's Marvelous Miniatures still at number 2. But Bones Miniatures have come out of nowhere from the top rope, so to speak, the rank 3. They bumped down Age of Sigmar. MCP is not even in the top 5. And Star Wars Legion is in 5th place. Now, a lot of that might have to do with a number of things. Like MCP was actually kind of hard to get, and people weren't really buying it because you could get it overseas quicker during the polling period. So it's possible that might turn around. You'll see MCP, maybe back on the chart. But the Bones, they did a big Kickstarter, made a couple million, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't they come out with like a new line that's actually good looking now?
Yeah, they're using the CEOcast.
Okay.
So, yep, and still affordable. And then, WizKids put out multi-part miniatures that were basically Warhammer 40K priced. I still see them on shelves everywhere. Nobody seems like they're buying them. Actually, a couple of people I talked to, they're like, yeah, our 40K guys bought them for 40K conversions. I'm like, oh, okay. Yikes.
Sounds right.
Yeah, even Goobertown did a video on it. He's like, I don't know about the pricing on this, but the miniatures are cool. And, I tend to agree with him. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but just something to be aware of that, it looks like hobbyists, at least in the early part of this year, seem to be preferring RPG miniatures over just about everything else out there. But 40K was still kind of firmly in the lead. But for how long? Nobody knows. Just something to kind of consider. I don't know if you guys saw this too in the most recent GW teaser. Do you guys ever remember Games Workshop putting out a product and saying that they're going to put it on pre-order? They never released it before. They're going to put it on pre-order, and it's going to come out in 3 months.
Other than like a book. We do that all the time with books.
Like made-to-order stuff, right?
Maybe.
I mean, made-to-order is actually usually 6 months, 180 days for them.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to things like that, so I'm like, no, I haven't seen that.
No, I have not. So they put out this preview for, I think it's something to do with Azilia Goth. I forgot how to say it, whatever. The Lord of the Rings battle where the bad guys actually win that one. And they said, hey, we're going to put this out. First of all, they're letting us know a month ahead of time. We're going to put this out on pre-order in September for a 2-week pre-order, and it's going to be delivered in December. But don't worry, you'll be able to get it. If you still want it, we're going to.
That makes sense. They do like some dumb Lord of the Rings promo every year because they have to have that. They have like a contractual agreement with New Line.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to. They've bought the license for so many years, and obviously they want to make good on it. And I will say also another thing to take in consideration. The pre-order period starts, I think, on the 10th of September. The show on Amazon starts on the 3rd. So,
yeah,
I can kind of see. I mean, it's either that or the alternative is they just don't know what to forecast for this, how many boxes people are actually going to buy right now, which is kind of a scary thought.
Yeah. Well, I can kind of see that because they don't know if people who are into that show is going to translate into people wanting to go out and play like a Lord of the Rings miniatures game, which makes sense because that game has been doing well for as long as I've been part of the 40K community, almost 20 years. And they continually put stuff out like every fall. And I think it has to do with the way their license works.
Yeah, they have to use the license or they lose the license.
Yeah, and they're like the only people who can make a tabletop miniatures game for Lord of the Rings. And so they want to keep that sole rights kind of thing upheld. When I was working in the store, they would do that where they would send like this huge kiosk, like foldy kiosk of product. Not one person bought any. And then we just had to strip it back up and send it back to
Mike Haspel's literally the only human I've ever seen with a bunch of painted Lord of the Ring miniatures. And he's been hype on that since that started. But I still never seen a motherfucker play it, including Mike Haspel.
there's actually a big scene out here. There's a store out here. There's a huge scene for it, but that's the only places.
But, what's your conclusion? Is your conclusion that like, is it because they can't forecast it, so they decided to onboard it with the release of the show, so they can kind of, pre-order and speculate, play safe?
Yeah, that seems like the safest way to do it, to be honest, because they're like, they have to have something out in the fall for the holiday season, and this show is coming out.
And it really wouldn't interact with too many stores, just your store that you talked about.
There's probably not really any communication between the two either. So I imagine they're just trying to if I had to do it, that's what I would do.
Vast majority of stores wouldn't even care that, because a lot of times we talk about like when they do a pre-order or website only order bullshit, that hurts the game stores,
Yep.
And Lord of the Rings probably doesn't hurt the game stores that much.
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people that want to buy it, and if they can't get it through the store because it's a GW Direct, like 4 months early pre-order, like I could see where.
So how do you feel about it?
So I'm kind of torn on it. Like I think it's good and bad. So competitive wise, I can see why they want to keep other the companies out of this, because they actually credited the surge in revenue from Lord of the Rings in the early 2000s to a lot of the capital improvements they were able to make, including one of the times they mentioned, hey, this Baneblade kit, we couldn't have done this without, all the success of the Lord of the Rings stuff, because they're able to put it in new technologies and actually, make the steel cuts and the steel molds to actually get in there and make it so that the bolters were drilled out on like the Baneblades and stuff. And they're very proud of it. And they put it in the White Dwarf, and they're talking all about it back in the day. And they're like, this is because of Lord of the Rings. It could be that, hey, maybe they don't want another company to see that kind of surge that they experienced in the early 2000s. That could be one thing. Another thing could be maybe this is a test bed for forecasting future battle boxes, because like I said in the pregame, everybody's walked into a store in the past year, maybe even last week, and still seeing, things like Black Templar Army boxes, Dominion boxes, some of the Age of Sigmar battle boxes, the stuff that's just kind of sitting around, not really selling. I mean, there's going to be Heresy boxes out there. They made like supposedly 100,000 of them. So they're just going to be out there. It doesn't mean they're not selling, because it's a really stacked box. But what if, and they wouldn't just jump the 40K in Sigmar with this. They would try it out on like Warcraft first, or like Necromunda or something. They'd be like, oh, we got this special pre-order, right? You got to get in on a special pre-order. But the thing I'm worried about, which I think is a great pivot, because they don't want to make extra inventory, right? Because if they're forcing all this shit out on stores and it's not selling, you can't, at the end of the day, you can only make so much stuff sell. So perhaps they're going to try to pivot into this like advanced pre-order / forecasting. Because once you have your initial pre-orders in, where the taper is, where you're going to be able to sell on release day, people just randomly picking it up. So about how much extra to make, right? But I'm worried that I think that's a good pivot, and I really like seeing it. And I hope that that's a good thing for the hobby in general, because then they're not kind of doing some of the scummy sales tactics and things.
It would also free game stores a little bit, because as much as I want game stores to always have the premium access to stuff, also don't want game stores to feel like they have to constantly chase the GW release to be successful, because it doesn't really matter to your revenue in the end. I think it might help be a nice middle ground between the two concepts that also, to use a term that we've used a few times today, is like the freedom. I think it kind of is, as long as they don't overdo it and snipe sales from game stores, but they're not, because they're doing it with Lord of the Rings, which barely affects game stores. So pretty cool information, actually.
Yeah, it could be a cool pivot if it pans out, and we'll see. Some other stuff that was pretty cool. Creaturecaster announced that the Resin Beast painting competition will return at Adepticon 2023, and they're partnering with Parabellum, the makers of the Conquest game that you might have heard of. So there's going to be $14,000 in prizes for that. So that's pretty neat.
Aren't they just fully partnered with them now?
I don't think so.
I think they make all their games, don't they? I mean, make all their models. Isn't that?
No, they're injection plastic for a lot of it.
Huh. I know there's a relationship there, and that's
Parabellum's actually. I think they're getting distributed through Asmodee now, so it'll be a lot easier to get that stuff into stores here in the near future. Batman Miniatures game announced their 10-year anniversary, and they had a couple of special exclusive figures. One is a pretty cool looking Batman figure, not quite from the movie, the most recent one, and a Robin. So if you've been looking to pick up a new game, maybe check out the Batman Miniatures game. Starters about $80 some dollars. Solid value, solid minis. Got them put together here, and pretty impressed. The guys that work here tell me they really enjoy the game and that I need to check it out. And I've been making excuses as to why I haven't, but usually their opinions are spot on. So I trust their judgment that it does not suck. So check that one out. Hopefully, we do have some stuff from last week. The Grey Knights Joy Toy figures were finally officially announced. They look great. They're the Terminators. The
Joy Toy stuff is just goddamn delight.
They're killing it, dude.
Yeah, they just look great.
Straight magic. I've been waiting my whole life for this kind of stuff, you know.
I'm still debating buying the Outrider bike and the Ultramarine that goes on it, but it's still got a little bit more time. I think the Asian ones are going to ship in September. But yeah, so the Grey Knights should be hitting pre-order, I think, very soon out of the Asian stores. And then you'll see them, with the normal American stores here a little bit later on. I think they were looking at like a early Q1 2023 arrival for the Grey Knights. And also, I think the Thunder Wolves are hitting about the same time as well.
I'm in.
Those models look sick. If I was in Space Wolves, I'd be like, I'd have them all over my house. And they look pretty fresh. We finally saw, and I know Wyatt is I figured we should mention it, a new Khorne Berserker model.
Yeah. Looks good.
Does look good.
Maybe Wyatt had a little casual conversation about it.
Tight.
It's tight. It's like really all you can say about it is
it's definitely in the right direction. I was, my worst fears was that they would come out and look goofy and derpy like the old ones. But yeah, they look cool. I like them. They're not too busy.
A move towards kind of true scaling it back up, like what you've been seeing that trend off of the heroic scale.
With the Death Guard.
Yeah. Instead of like just comically large hands and boots, and like you're seeing armor scaling up to head size, longer arms, still comic book jacked proportions, but ferociously clean lines and clean details.
I hope there's like sleeveless dudes in the squad. That Berserker
because not every Legion can rock sleeveless. Like most of them don't have the arms for it, honestly. But definitely World Eaters, they
jacked.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm
excited to see the other bits in the box because they're not playing they're not showing us the best one first. That's just not how you do things.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what else is in the box.
Remember there's some rumor about some like cool demon juggernaut flying thing too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That would be a neat model C.
That would have changed my life.
So yeah, been about 20 years. So always dope to see new hotness, especially on the Chaos Space Marine front. I did want to mention that there's a little bit of a 3D printing bit of news. Colts 3D put up a kind of a chat to some of their artists saying, hey, GW doesn't like some of the stuff here, and they gave a list of keywords in their words, not what GW sent over. And a lot of it is, things like Adeptus, Drakari, Adonis.
Oh, like search
Kane.
terms, like keywords for the search terms?
Yeah, keyword search terms, but a lot of it is the stuff that GW has copyrighted, basically untokenizing their factions, which we've been seeing happen slowly over the last 10 years or so, right? Because, Eldar went to Eldari and such. So it's not, it makes sense, but, I guess the skeptic in me kind of is like, people already know how to get around this out there. Like it's it's like them trying to play whack-a-mole when I feel like maybe they should be putting more resources into what the pivot's going to actually be for all this stuff, because I kind of feel like it's already, the momentum's already built on the 3D printing kind of side of things. But we've been talking about that for a while. So I just thought it was interesting that a major platform got a notice from them, and they basically reading their statement, you know, they're like, hey, we're going to comply with this, but, you know, we're going to do what's best for us and you too, you know, almost like a little bit of a pushback, which I never, you know, 100% agree with, just, you know, right off the bat, acquiescing with anything like this, regardless of Games Workshop or what have you. So, you know, obviously 1-for-1 ports, you know, that's always going to draw some attention. Maybe develop, you know, tell you, like I tell all these artists out there, develop your own style, develop your own brand, get a following.
I mean, as you've mentioned, this has been discussed before, but it's like, you know, first and foremost, if you're making a living copying somebody else's artwork, you're doing that on borrowed time. First off, like, understand that. Well, also, GW, I believe, is too tense and too strict with the letter of this concept, because marketing, I believe they're dropping the ball on valuable marketing opportunities through cooperative encouragement of quote unquote fan art in whatever capacity we're talking about here. So they both do things I don't agree with. But ultimately, like I said, if you make money for a living copying somebody else's shit, and even if you reimagine it and change it and it's inspired by, you're still not that tight. Like, just understand that. Like, you're not making a product that you invented, and that is forever on borrowed time. But simultaneously, you should be clever about what search terms and tags you use, always, because that's what puts you on the radar. And, you know, typically the guy who flies too close to the sun is the one who gets slabs down. So the more brazen and brass you are with your terminology, the more likely you're the one who gets slapped down is. So, like,
and it happens, but it's just something to be aware of, that, you know, seems like there's starting to be a little bit of pushback, and, you know, we'll see as this goes down the road where it all sorts out. So, new release wise, it looks like, and I guess if we didn't have this thing to talk about with the edition change for the meat and potato rumors, we could have talked about how the actual pricing shockingly seems low for all the Horus Heresy stuff this week. I was really surprised when the prices came in. Well, let's just go over it real quick. There's a Warhammer Underworlds Warband, $42. That's pretty standard. But then the price on the Legions to Karen battle tank is only $80. And I say only $80, like, that's not a lot of money, and it is. But, you know, I think a lot of people kind of expected that to be more.
I still think that's way too much for a tank.
I agree. It's not.
I come from the scale modeling world, so until Games Workshop starts making tank models that are as good as, like, you know, the big scale modeling names and stuff, I'm just like, don't charge that much. I almost wish that their tanks were, like, less parts. Because they're, like, all that matters is, like, the outside, and it's like, you guys are over engineering these, and you're not even adding anything to, like, the model, you know, as far as detail is concerned.
Well, there's that for sure. But I think a lot of people expected it to be on par with the Land Raider, which I think currently is $110, which is a look. The new Leviathan Dreadnought with ranged weapons this time around, which they also mentioned would be available separately as a sprue, probably for $27 as well, is $80. Legion of Stars Contemptor Dreadnought for $60, which kind of checking in a little bit lower than what I think a lot of people thought it was going to be as well. It was hard to make out from the preview whether it's going to come with 2 weapon sprues, one with they came with the one in the Heresy starter box, and then one new one, which would have things like carries assault cannon, and the plasma was on there, I believe, and one other weapon, which escapes me right at this moment. But if it comes with 2 weapon sprues for $60, I mean, that seems like pretty good value as far as like what you're getting out of the kit. I mean, 60 is still high, but it's not, a Redemptor is 70, so and a Leviathan is 80. So the pricing and value just seems to be very much in flux right now. Spartan Assault Tank, $112. Again, I think a lot of people expected that to be around 125 or so. 112, it's $2 more than a Land Raider.
Wonder how they came up with that price. That's strange.
I don't know, but I feel like you get more than $2 worth of stuff out of it. I'd rather just buy that instead of a Land Raider in 2022.
100%.
10 packs of the plastic Terminators, 85. The Terminator with or the Praetor with Power Sword and the Praetor with Power Axe, $33.50 each. Which again, it's kind of like a weird number. Yeah. Like characters are 35. We've seen other characters like older ones for 30. It's almost like they just split the middle and they're just like, I don't know, split the difference. I mean, it's cool. Somebody in chat saying that the base Land Raider is 85. I thought it was 110. Maybe that's the Battle Wagon. It's 110. I'll have to check that out. Either way. So, and then they're coming out with the Liber Mechanicum book too for $50. So that isn't quite unexpected. We talked about, we're going to talk a lot about rules here in a few minutes as far as rule books and things go. So that's the lineup for next week. If you're into Heresy, seems pretty well priced. If you're not into Heresy and you just like Firstborns, still seems pretty well priced. I don't know.
That's actually kind of shocking. Breath of fresh air, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you said Be'lakor. Didn't you have something to talk about Be'lakor?
There's some Be'lakor rules that, rumors, of course, they kind of came out that looks very similar. I think they said he was a Supreme Commander. Let me pull him up. Which I don't believe he was originally, but.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's, what is he, just like a Lord of War right now?
I don't know. I could pull it up on Wikipedia. I just didn't.
So, I mean, like, and the rumors that we have points are just like changes to his profile?
Let's see.
Because I'm almost done painting my Be'lakor right now. And so I'm like,
oh, yeah, he's looking fresh.
Thank you.
I like the purple sword. All right, movement 12, 8, and 6. So I guess it degrades. Weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2, strength 8, toughness 7, 20 wounds, 6 attacks. Yeah, bold. 9 leadership, save 4+, 4+. Sweep attack is 2x attack, so 12. Then at strength 8, AP 3. D1 damage. Okay, that makes sense. Pierce, which I guess is just a single.
It's still ignore vulnerables?
6 attacks. So the Pierce does strength 12, -4 AP, D3 +3 attacks.
Or damage.
Oh, no, D3 +3 damage, no involves.
20 wounds. That's the important takeaway there. Because remember, we were talking about somebody else who's 20 wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got us thinking about Angron. And now Be'lakor looking like he's going to be 20 wounds is indicating a explosion in wounds for these badasses.
Yeah, I'm wondering what that's about.
So
I don't know. Maybe more high damage weapon pivots.
Well, I mean, like they're making these big guys more survivable, right? And so that, which is, kind of a good segue because of the rumors about 10th edition hard resetting.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why you need a reset is because of so-called rules bloat, because when you write rules and then new rules come out and then you have to adjust rules to match those rules and then you have to keep doing that. And essentially what you're doing is you're making everything able to compete with everything. And in this capacity, it's making things either hit harder or harder to be hit or so cheap it's fine, right? We have to constantly keep rebalancing. And so throwing more wounds at guys because the game has more DPS in it is kind of like one of those, indicators. Having to push everything up just to survive, just to not get picked up off the table. And that's every game, all day, every day, every game gets to a point like that.
Yeah.
And it's time to reset the values. Because what 8th edition Warhammer 40K and then moving to 9th edition did was it started upgrading our characteristic score. The actual paperwork behind our characters. Mm-hmm. So, remember, like, it was a big deal when people had more than a wound who weren't a character. You know what I mean? That was a big deal. And then suddenly everyone needs at least 2 or they're useless, practically. And now we're talking like, man, 3 wounds or go home, so pretty interesting to see Be'lakor going up to 20 wounds. I like that in today's environment.
Apparently it has all the god keywords, Zinchkorn, Nurgle Slanesh. Also Warp Locust, which I guess is that new deep strike mechanic thing. Not 100%. Is a Supreme Commander, so I guess for detachment stuff.
I don't know. I feel like we need. What does he get as a Supreme Commander? Like, is there? We need to know more.
Say.
We need to know more about it and how he would slide into a traditional Chaos Space Marine army.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering, like, what does that mean? Like, you can splash him? Can he be in Knights?
Do we have you can be... if he's just a Supreme Commander and he has the correct keywords, Wyatt, you can just run him in your Chaos and not for kind of a cheap price. Isn't that how that works?
I'm not exactly sure what the
like he would have to be your warlord, and if he
yeah.
has like Adeptus Hereticus or whatever keyword, then it's like less command points.
Oh, if you're talking about making him like in a Supreme Command attachment,
yeah.
Does he have the right keywords?
I don't know.
It's got to be like
yeah, it's hard to see.
Does he have Supreme Commander?
He does, but what is it there for? It's hard to say.
See, like we need
right now. Man. So if he doesn't have it's Traitoris Astartes is the wording that you want for CSM. Because if he doesn't have Traitoris Astartes, then that breaks the army-wide rule. And he doesn't have the Legion keyword.
So that's where we need more information. We need to know what beyond Supreme Commander he has. Because like right now, we have Disciples of Be'lakor, but these, armies are renowned or quickly becoming outdated by codex replacements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, but he's obviously designed to coincide with his Demon Codex that's going to drop.
Oh, yeah.
But he historically has been a guy who floats between the two factions. He has some other special rules and abilities too, or a reroll of 1s to hit for demons, excluding vehicles. So I guess no soul grinders. He's neg 1 to hit, cannot reroll. He had that shadow form.
Yep. Neg 1 to wound, neg 1 damage against ranged attacks.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, so he seems to be pretty much functionally the same, just more wounds.
Still hates. Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Like he's a hard cat to interact with. Like, but before, remember, he benefited from obscuring terrain. That's one of his strongest things, because he was
not anymore.
So,
well, if that's true,
they gave him a handful of extra wounds. See if it's enough. See if it's enough for those demon players. But let's move into it then. We've got enough time. So, Rob, talk us through tonight's title. And why.
I guess, are you going to use that title tonight? I mean, for the podcast?
Well, wouldn't I? You change them when you don't like them anyway, so I'll just write whatever I want.
I edit them for grammar.
Okay. You trying to say I can't write?
No, I would never.
Trying to say I misspell things?
Not on purpose.
Look, word bears.
Word bears. So we touched on it last week a little bit, but a lot of folks are kind of taking the ball and run, and I think they're starting to kind of see, judging by. I always like reading the comments. I like digging into groups, reading the comments, just creep in, creep out. Like that's where the good stuff is. Just kind of see even GW's page. Like they can't keep up with it anymore. All the comments and stuff in there. Just see what people are saying. See what the word on street is, and that's where the good stuff is. And I love reading it. And it seems like a lot of folks are concerned, and their concerns, may or may not be valid. For folks that are thinking about picking up demons, Imperial Guard, Leagues of Votan, possibly World Eaters, but possibly Space Marines 2.0 reboot, maybe some chapter books in there. That's still pretty much all that's left until 10th edition hits. The rumored 10th edition in June or July 2023, right? But there's been some new rumors out there saying that there's going to be a reboot, that potentially, there would be another index scenario because of the rules reboot that you would see. They'd have to come out with indexes for people to get all at once until their new codex came out. And that's the problem for all these like 5 or so books that they're still waiting on.
Anybody who just showed up to Warhammer 40K since 8th edition has begun, which is very possible because we had a pandemic, a lockdown, a lot of popularity, a lot of sales, might be unaware of what occurred and what a reset in an index scenario that Rob says actually means, right? So if you've been in 8th and then you saw it tick over to 9th, what you saw was an old school edition change, which is how it was almost always been, except for this one moment, which was, hey, new edition, new core rules, here's some new changes, and you're still playing your codex and everything's fine, some FAQs, whatever. Well, in 8th edition, they changed the way we play 40K so dramatically that an old codex could no longer be played. So they said every codex that exists is unexisted, does no longer have any interaction with the game. Here is a book, and inside that book are index rules and data sheets and everything. No fancy stuff, just how you play with your army as it is right now. You play Chaos Space Marines, you flip to the Chaos Space Marines section. Here are my points. This is how I play. No codexes, nothing. Everything that you currently have doesn't matter. The other time that happened was 3rd edition. Moving from 2nd to 3rd, we got a book of how to play Warhammer 40K, and inside that book was the rules for all the codexes, all the armies. So this has only happened twice in I don't know, 100 years? Which I think is accurate. Yeah. So back to Rob. So that, just to catch anybody up who may have just jumped in and became a new player in the last 2 years. This is what we mean by a hard reset. But, and quote unquote, that's the add-on rumor, because we're pretty sure 10th edition is dropping next year.
Yeah, if you look at the trends, it's been 3 years, and they've been doing everything in 3-year increments, whether it's 40K, Age of Sigmar, or hobby rack, new hobby paints, tools, whatever, every 3 years since 2014. We post the complete list over on the site. You can kind of Google it, like GW sales plan or something, check it all out. But so 10th edition is probably coming out. That's what a lot of people are saying. And, I could see the point where if these folks, five books come out and people get them and they're super high for them, and then they basically become redundant within whatever amount of time. Say everything comes out by.
Speculate on that. So we're getting demons this month.
We don't know that.
Well, let's just say, I'm just saying, speculate. So demons this month.
I would say we're not getting demons this month.
Okay, so next month. So then what's after demons? What will we need? What's left on the shelf? Imperial Guard? Leagues of Votan?
Leagues of Votan, potentially World Eaters. But remember, we're getting into that weird, wacky world right now where the same thing happened as the edition was winding down, to where they doubled down on the Space Marine book, the chapter books. Then they also came out with the Psychic Awakening stuff.
They did that. They did do that. I forgot about that.
Right. And that's what carried us through to the new edition.
Okay, so let's say best case scenario, 3 books is what we're waiting on. And let's say that September, then then if September is demons, then when would the next one be? Would they finish the cycle in 2022? Like, what those 3 books you think would come out, like Leagues of Votann and Astra Militarum? You think we'd be finished by the end of this year?
Yeah, I think there's a higher possibility of those being out by, I would say, September, October, maybe 2 in October, and then leave November open for whatever stuff they want to push out. Maybe battle forces in December. I think there's going to be some kill team stuff and stuff they're going to have to float at some point, like the follow up to this new.
So it's possible. This is like just going best case scenario. So it's possible you may get a codex, and 6 months later, nearly exactly 6 months later, all codexes are invalid, including yours. As we move,
there is a greater than 0 chance
in this scenario where, remember, this is a rumor that there's a reset. We're pretty sure it's a fact that there will be 10th edition.
Right.
The current rumor that's been just really gaining a lot of steam over the last 48 hours is a reset. So, worst case scenario / best case scenario, you buy a codex and 6 months later, all codexes vanish. That's what we're talking about right now for mass exodus in June or July 2023.
Right, which would be the time frame where the reboot would happen. And it's not unprecedented either. I mean, it is.
We mentioned.
Actually, it's not. Yeah, we talked about that. It's not in 40K, right? Or it's not in GW because we saw it with Age of Sigmar. 100%.
We saw it during 7th edition in general.
Yeah, that's true with detachments and such.
So it's possible GW makes an edition so bad, people leave the game. That has happened. Wyatt left the game because of that.
I don't think people will leave the game because the edition is, quote, bad. I think what will happen is people will leave the game because they'll be like, those books I just bought are invalidated. Holy crap, I got to buy these new index books that are $50 each. I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. Like, I play this, and that. Like, man, this is bull crap. And we saw it most recently in 2018 when X-Wing went to their 2.0 version and you had to buy all the stuff to go with it.
Didn't it just happen with another big company that we gave airtime to last week?
What are we talking about? Sorry.
P3 or War Machine?
Oh, Privateer. Yeah.
Didn't they just
Privateers? I mean,
they
wish
were
them the best. Man, it's going to be. I know retailers aren't going to be very happy to carry it. Anyways, so there's that. There is the potential for a huge player. You know, folks out there, they're kind of onto what GW's been doing as far as like putting stuff out. Hey, I want this one thing out of this box. I'm just going to wait, pick it up separately down the road. But that also means that, you know, it's going to be a hard sell to be like, new game, new box. You got to buy all these books.
Yeah. Wyatt, speak to that. Because we are, and anyone listening to this the first time on the drive home from work, we rehearse this. We do a pre-game show. We do a after hours content to our patrons, which we do a long-winded warm-up and we interact with the chat. And so I already know Rob's points, and I'm now sending over a couple of ways Rob phrases his position, which is they're on to us. They're going to be on to GW, right? Which is like a negative. Like they're onto their system, like their betrayal, essentially, of our purchasing agreement with them, right? That I would have some longevity in these books and I wouldn't be in a situation where they drop another $50 or a box release that I only want 2 things out of, right? That you keep putting out these boxes that cost hundreds of dollars, right? Like, we're on to you, GW, right? Is kind of like why, if I understand Rob correctly, he feels that, or in the potential for this exodus would occur. Is that accurate, Rob?
That's my hypothesis, and I think that echoes a lot of online comments. Yeah.
Yeah. No, do your research, and you have your fingers on the pulse of this joint. Like, so I love your perspective on that. And so, like, to that specific emotion, Wyatt, how do you feel about, you know, us moving into a potential hard reset and how that might affect the community?
So I have a couple of different thoughts on it. I definitely understand. Like, let's just say I'm a newer player. Maybe I've only been in 40K for a handful of months. Barely have one army, and these space dwarves, they're looking real cool, man. Like, they got these gravity bikes and these crawlers and power armor, and like they're just space dwarves. It's the coolest thing ever, right?
Space dwarves.
Yeah. So I buy into Votan. Today's Votan comes out in October, wherever it might be. And then I only get that codex for like 4 or 5 months. And they're like, psych, like.
Well, also, real quick
index.
interjection. So you buy it in October. You're hype on it. You're doing your shit online. You're talking to people. You're buying. You're collecting. You're building. You're assembling. You're scraping mold lines. Getting some play tests in. Finally gets around to painting it. Let's say in this worst case scenario, you're one of the rare people who actually fucking did paint your 2,000 point army that you hyped on and collected. And now you're probably in the February market right now.
Right.
February 2020.
For like the average individual, I'd say like probably about 2 months, 3 months. You know, if we're talking like, you know, Joe Wargamer, he's got a wife, he's got some kids, he's got a day job, that kind of thing. Probably takes a couple of months.
I say 4. I put 4 on my calendar for this kind of stuff for people all the time on this.
So you finally get to that point and they're like, hey, next month, get ready to throw that book in the trash.
Oh yeah, and let me interject again. And so now it's February, and you got it done by February because there's a big GT that month.
Yeah.
So you went and you played your GT. You finally did it. You played the big game, and you're like, "Oh my god, that was amazing! I finally did it. I'm so hype on this. I got to make some changes to the list." You go back to the store, you buy a bunch of new models, start making list adjustments, start play testing. Then the hard reset announcement comes. You're moving into March, and you have like 30 to 60 days left with this army.
Right. And that's super feels bad. Like it is not fun to be in that spot, right? Especially with how we saw the transition go between even just like normal editions, you know, you may have built your entire collection and your enjoyment level of this army based off of maybe like there's a sub faction, right? Let's just say if you're a CSM player and you like word bearers, right? If they strip away what made them cool to you, that makes you kind of not want to play them. It makes your time investment, because it's like the most valuable thing that you can give anything. It's your time investment. That feels really bad. And I can see how people would be like, well, I don't want to fucking do this anymore, right? I invested all this time into putting this army together, and now the thing that made them cool to me isn't there anymore, right? That doesn't feel good. To take it even a step farther, we have this World Leaders Codex coming out, right? Fabled when? We don't know. What if that comes out and then kind of like what happened between 7th and 8th, where they finally gave us the CSM Legion books?
Don't even get me.
And we had them for what, like fucking 45 days?
It hurts so much.
Yeah.
Dude, there was like so much hype behind that. And like people were making like comments or content on it. And
I wrote a
like,
10-page article for Rob on Spiky Bits.
People were so stoked for that because we finally got them for the first time basically ever. And then they were like, fucking psych, like 8th edition, let's go. You know, and like I personally feel that was for the better. 8th edition into 9th edition's way better than what it used to be. But I'm really stoked for this World Leaders book. Get this whole new World Leaders aesthetic, new models, new vibe, all this kind of stuff. And I feel pretty mad that like you waited all this time for a standalone World Leaders Codex, and then they're like, yeah, we're going to go to Index. Because you know that the transition between a full Codex and those Index books is that a lot of those rules, things like warlord traits, relics, stratagems, even data sheets and stuff, might get stripped out.
And we're only using the one example that's ever occurred, right?
Yeah.
This only ever happened once, and it was stripped down. It was literally 3 universal stratagems, abilities and characteristics on the page. The end. There was nothing else. It was the absolute watered down version.
And we also know what's going to happen is that it's not going to just be the Index, and we're not going to have like 5-6 books come out on the same month, right? It's going to be like everybody is shackled with these indexes, and then it's going to be like 2 codexes in the next month with the starter box, which is probably going to be like Space Marines and somebody else. So then we're back to that index world for like a month or two.
Where everybody gets a codex.
Well,
and you don't.
Yeah, in that first month or so, it's like Space Marines were dominating because they were like, we have all of this stuff. Like we have a whole book of strategy.
Chaos Space Marines actually got the codex first. So Chaos Space Marines in 8th edition got the codex first. I know because I used to dick stomp Alan at the local scene.
No, Space Marines and Death Guard were first.
No, I'm talking about 8th edition. 8th edition Warhammer 40K. Yeah, that was the box to launch the index.
The first 2 codexes.
No, that was the rule book and the index. And then the very first hardback actual codex, the first people to have stratagems that weren't the 3 in the book, that was Chaos.
Was it?
Yeah. And I used to infuriate the living fuck.
Man, I could swear that like CS,
because the day
regular SM got that first.
The actual codex dropped and Alan could fall back and still shoot was the first time he beat me in 8th edition.
Oh, okay.
So I was just dominating
it's
people.
The Mandela effect. We've shifted to a new reality.
I was
exactly
trashing people.
That especially if you were like, well, 2 months ago I had my new codex and now, we had all my cool shit stripped away. Now I have this index, and then whoever gets their codexes first, they're just gonna like fucking stomp people. That doesn't feel good. So like, I'm actually of the mind that we don't even need a new edition. I think 9th edition is a great skeleton of rules.
Yeah.
When most people say rules bloat, I'm like, extrapolate. Like, what are we talking about? Because I, in fact, do not think that 40K is bloated with rules. I think most of the rules are relatively easy to understand. But I differ from Rob in that Rob is like, I need to know everything or else I don't feel prepared to play the game. Whereas like, I'm like, I know my shit. And then like the number one thing that I will ask or say during a game is like, how's that work? Or what does that do? And then they tell me and I'm like, okay, cool. I know what that does. Like, so I don't feel the need to like have all of these codexes downloaded into my brain to be able to play. So I don't think it's bloated, but I will say we're kind of in a 80-20, like 80% cool, 20% loose ends need to get cleaned up. So I would say like, I would rather see like a 9.5 where those aspects are like cleaned up. And then we just continue on our merry way and we have our Warzone seasons or whatever they're calling them, every so many months. Like I would be fine with that for at least a little while.
What about if they did what they did with 8th edition where when they're like, hey, we got you. If you just bought a book within like 30 days or something, we'll give you your money back.
Oh, like, yeah, they did. I forgot they did that.
Yeah. But it was only like a certain amount of time.
You had a window, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I mean, dude, I feel like.
Honestly, I forgot they did that. It's a great point. If
you bought like one of the last 5 codexes or whatever, I feel like you should get a refund.
They have. So if we're going to quote the old index, if we're going to quote what had already happened as as the definition of what a reset is, then we also have to quote that they will offer a refund.
They did in 8th edition.
They did because there's a possibility that the way a reset index lineup appears is different than it appeared the last time. It could be better and more improved, but we're not going to quote that. We're quoting how it happened last time, and part of that was to give you your money back. So, assuming everything is handled the same exact way as it was previously, I mean.
Yeah,
doesn't that help a lot with the buyer's remorse or do you think it's still going to be like people are going to be so mad that they painted a beautiful army that it's not going to work the same way and $50 refund doesn't matter to them?
Honestly, so I was being like somewhat agreeable with Rob's point. In my heart of hearts, I do not for a second think that we're going to see a mass exodus of players. I think the idea of the grass is greener on the other side metaphor for a new edition will overshadow people's like, oh no, I have to get an index now. We're doing a big reset. Like 9 times out of 10, your average 40K player who does not participate in like online forums and doesn't troll Reddit and doesn't watch every single piece of content that comes out on a daily basis. Like most of the time, they don't even know any of that stuff exists. They will probably get swayed by the like shiny new thing, you know, and go into the new edition. I definitely do agree that if I was in that position, if it happened to me, I would feels bad. Like that would not feel good. So we'll have to see what happens. Personally, I'm not really excited by the idea of a new edition. We just got our new CSM book and I really like where it's at. I think it has a lot of legs. I don't think it's going to get outdated in the next, year of play.
But even if you got a whole year out of it, you would prefer to have that whole year out of it without feeling the stress of thinking it was going to go away soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Or,
even though a year of playing it is really good.
Yeah. So let's just say that like every codex is out by December and at minimum, no matter what your codex is, you're going to get at least 6 months to play before this new edition comes out and there is a reset. I would feel kind of okay. But that being said, I play more than the average person. And I go to multiple organized play events a month. So that 6 months for me is a number of games that most people probably wouldn't have in like 2 years' time. Right. So it just kind of depends on your situation. Yeah. I may not like aspects of a new edition, but I like playing 40K. So I'm just going to adapt and overcome, I'll just get used to it.
Yeah. It's honestly because it kind of does flip my opinion a little bit because I forgot about the refund thing, Rob. And I remember being so hyped for 8th, but it's because 7th was trash. And I think 9th is amazing. But it's funny because as I read comments, a lot of people seem to say 9th is great. But, almost as many people I see in comments on the internet are saying that it's garbage now because it's too much codex creep. It's too much this, it's too much that. So if I'm going to take the temperature of the market, then a lot of people don't like 9th edition. So shouldn't they be hype on a 10th edition reset? So that's an emotion I didn't consider. Simultaneously, if they refund you a codex cost, you can't whine about the money you're out now. Doesn't exist. They did that. Man. That's a fact. It occurred. So you can't whine about the money. So the only thing you can whine about is your time, as Wyatt mentioned, is your most valuable. It's your most valuable currency, right? And every human's currency, they can spend it as liberally or as conservatively as they want on whatever activities they choose. So I tend to not be sympathetic towards someone who bought a codex, bought the models, hobbied on the models, painted the models, played a game or two with the models. I just can barely sympathize with that person being butthurt. That's something about the book, which is like the thing that you did almost nothing time-wise to achieve, has changed because all of that entertainment occurred still. You got thousands of hours practically of just baller entertainment, and you have something physical you can hold in your hand and look at and be happy about and validated through. So it's hard for me to sympathize with someone in that capacity. So I don't see how anybody who's complaining about, I just finished my army and everything changed, I'm quitting 40K. I was like, motherfucker, you weren't going to play 40K.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I see, and kind of my point.
How is quitting 40K going to change the fact that you got 1,000 hours of entertainment and you have a beautiful army to hold?
Yeah, and that's totally true. And I don't know, the reason I feel like we don't need a new edition is that we've gone through, we've made it out of the woods, right? I'm not going to sit here and deny that there weren't some rough patches in 9th edition, but let's be objective about this. It wasn't the core set of rules that was a problem. It was the codexes. It was the special armies coming out. It was when Drakari came out and Admech came out and when Tau first came out and different things like that. That has nothing to do with the core rules of the game, right? And that's what I'm pushing here is I don't think we need a 10th edition. I think we need to kind of ride this wave.
Like you said, we need a 9.5. We need to see how these seasons play out. Yes. And we need to do that, right? And this is all from the perspective of game mechanics. If you want to hear our opinions on business decisions and shareholder meetings and stuff, we actually covered all that side of this discussion in our after hours segment. There's a lot of reasons that we already covered, so we're disregarding them. Just for game mechanics alone, 9.5 makes more sense, period, because it gives us more time with this new season format, which we just figured out. We just figured out how to embrace.
Yeah, I like the balance.
So if your information is like 2 or 3 months old, like I'll tell you now, right now, the past like about a month or so since Nephilim came out, we're in a great state of play.
I agree.
Like people who are out there playing the game really enjoy it. It is a great balance. Oh, yes, there are factions that are maybe not as tight as others. And there are factions that are a little bit better, but that's the nature of, asymmetrically balanced gameplay. That's what 40K is. But at an organized play standpoint, it's really anybody's game, right? There are a couple of outliers with Necrons and Sisters of Battle because there was a little bit of an oversight with how their secondaries score, but those armies are not unbeatable. Like the army itself is not unbeatable. You have to have a game plan to beat those armies, knowing that they're going to get what amounts to a lot of free points with the way their secondary scores. But balance-wise, we're in a great state right now. And I kind of want to just keep this going and then like iron out the kinks and snip off the loose ends as we go along. And I think we'd be in a great, kind of era of 40K.
Yeah, but a mass exodus, I would rephrase it to be new players acquired through 8th and 9th edition mass exodus, because I can see how...
Well, that was their growth.
I would see that your new player acquisition from that moment to now, this could be a lot of shock for them, right? This is a lot of new concepts they've never gone through. And in today's, you mentioned macroeconomics earlier, stuff like that. In today's economy, in today's world, people don't have the same expendable income they had before, and we are less able to disregard investments of like whether financial or time as we were pre 8th edition. So there's a lot of factors that could definitely cause a new player acquisition, 8th edition, 9th edition mass exodus for sure. But I don't believe it will affect any OG at all pre 8th edition. I believe that no single human who wasn't already going to take a step back from the scene is quitting 40K if there's a reset prior to that. Like they may say that, that's not the reality. You're like motherfucker probably hasn't even painted army. You know what I'm saying?
We might lose a lot of butthurt areas that haven't played a game of 40K in like 6 months.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
How you feel about that, Rob? In conclusion, don't quit Warhammer 40K if the rumors are accurate that there's a reset. You might be able to refund for your codex, and everything's going to be just fine. They can't take away your beautiful army and your entertainment value.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh, and as Rob mentioned, because you can always redefine your parameter of victory to how beautiful and awesome your army is and go play Crusade.
Yep, it's true. Crusade's a lot of fun. That's what I constantly tell people. It's like, if you think that the armies are imbalanced or you're not having a good time in organized play, maybe it's just not for you. Like, do a Crusade League with your bros at the weekly store, because it's smaller games, it's faster, it's snappier, you get level up mechanics. Like, it's a really cool system.
Mm-hmm. I didn't believe you, but I actually took some time to understand it a little bit more, and I actually agree with that. Yeah. So that might be something I look into, as a matter of fact, because of my situation, So either way, solid topic, solid coverage. Rob, as he mentioned earlier in the show, you may see us move into a faster format, and we would be done 30 minutes ago in the next show. But that's all future Rob and Kenny problems, because Wyatt's not going to be here next week, as he is traveling to
be up at Salt Lake City.
put some Red Corsair knuckles on some chins.
Yeah, dude. Gonna go rep for the Space Pirates, steal some shit. Be fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, we got to get out of here tonight. So, Wyatt?
Wrap.
So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. For exclusive content, early access videos, and more, become a veteran of the Long War today.